Look at the price for 1 second, then watch it shrink. Not the cost, just the size of it. A coat, a phone, a flight you've been talking yourself out of for a month. One number big enough to make you pause, and then, beneath it, 4 softer numbers that don't. Tap once. Something runs in a place you'll never see, and a word like approved lands before you've quite finished deciding. You haven't saved a cent. You only feel as if you have. This is the quiet sorcery of the modern checkout. No loan officer, no signature, no one asking whether you can really cover it. Just a button the same shape and color as every other button on the screen. An obligation to repay wrapped in the language of a discount. Borrowing, made to feel like saving. It feels like something the internet dreamed up, an app store idea, a few years old at most. It isn't. The button is new. The trick underneath it is old enough to have outlived the people who first grew rich on it, and it began for a reason almost no one today would guess. Hold on to that. We'll come back to where it started and why. For now, the surface. The version you'll meet most often is some flavor of pay in 4. Take the thing home today, clear the rest in a handful of installments, usually with no interest if you keep to the schedule. Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay, and a dozen rivals compete for the bottom of the screen at the precise instant your finger is hovering, and it works on something far older than any of them. The way a mind handles a number. A single large total triggers a small jolt of hesitation. The private question of whether it's worth it. Split that total into 4, and the jolt never fires. We judge each slice on its own instead of adding them back together. Nothing about the price has moved. It simply stops feeling heavy. That feeling is the product being sold. The shop isn't offering it out of kindness. Customers who can divide a total abandon fewer carts and fill bigger ones, so the merchant gladly pays a fee to whoever runs the plan. The provider collects that fee, and depending on the company and the purchase, may also earn from interest, late charges, or other financing folded in beside it. The details vary. The alignment never does. You see a smaller number. The seller sees a finished sale. The provider sees the opening of a financing relationship. The merchant and the provider are quietly rooting for the same outcome. The decision happening now, fast, with nothing in its way. And the option no longer waits for the rare, expensive purchase it was built around. It has crept under travel, clothing, makeup, concert tickets, takeaway dinners, the weekly shop. In the Federal Reserve's 2025 survey of American households, roughly 1 in 5 people who used a pay-later plan reached for it to buy groceries or food delivery. Among them, nearly half said it wasn't about convenience at all. It was the only way they could afford the food. A method built to move a costly, lasting object now helps cover the cost of dinner. Each plan, on its own, looks small and harmless. The catch is that they rarely travel alone. 3 or 4 can run at once, across different shops, on different days, until the total you owe is scattered too widely to take in at a glance. In that same survey, about 1 in 9 American users had one of these plans push them into an overdraft. The individual amounts stayed manageable. Their sum quietly did not. None of this makes splitting a cost a trap or the people who use it careless. Done deliberately, it can be entirely sensible. The sharper point has nothing to do with the customer's judgment. It's that a genuinely useful financial tool has been re-engineered into a marketing device, one tuned with real precision to the predictable soft spots in how human beings decide. Advertising has always tried to make us want things. This is quieter and more effective. A design built to delete the half second of hesitation in which we'd normally ask whether we should. And look at what it increasingly sells. Installment buying can still hand you something durable, something that keeps its worth. But more and more, the same mechanism is aimed at things eaten, worn out, or forgotten long before the final installment clears. The structure didn't change. Its purpose did. And spreading one purchase across time was only the beginning. Which brings us back to where this began, because it did not begin in Silicon Valley. The idea is well over a century old. and it was already reshaping how ordinary families bought things long before electric light reached most of their homes. By the middle of the 19th century, factories had learned to make complicated goods quickly and in great numbers.
Slide it to the next station.
Industry had learned to produce for the masses long before it had worked out how to make the masses pay. The clearest example sat on a workbench, a sewing machine able to do in an hour what once took a long evening by hand and priced far above what most working households could put on the table in cash at once. The wanting was there. The money, all at once, was not. Installment selling already existed. It didn't start here. But a firm called Singer became one of the earliest and best known to scale it, eventually across international markets, a little down, then modest monthly amounts, until the thing was finally yours. The business figure usually tied to adapting and expanding that approach is Edward Clark, though the move mattered far more than the man. What Singer had really started selling against wasn't the coins in the buyer's pocket that day. It was the wages they hadn't earned yet. And here is the part worth holding against the modern button. That sewing machine was no fleeting pleasure. It cut the cost and the hours of clothing a family. For some households, it did more. Piecework taken in, garments stitched for sale, real money drawn through the door. Not everyone ran a trade from it. Most just wanted to mend a shirt without losing a night. But paid off slowly, it could place a durable, sometimes productive tool in the hands of people who would otherwise have waited years to own one. That old arrangement and today's checkout run on one shared discovery. A company doesn't have to wait for you to save. It can sell straight to what you'll earn next. Everything since has kept that insight and rebuilt everything around it. The waiting collapsed from a deliberate plan into a single tap. The paperwork vanished. The borrowing stopped looking like borrowing, and the reach widened from a few costly, lasting goods to very nearly anything in the cart, including the things long gone before they're paid for. The same tool that once widened access has been retuned to speed consumption up. So the real invention was never the installment plan itself. What changed over a century wasn't that core promise. It was its range, how fast it moved, how far it spread, and how gently it could be made to feel like nothing at all. Take the thing today. Let the version of you who wakes up next month settle the bill. And once a company had learned to stretch a single price across time, a sharper thought arrived close behind. If a thin, steady trickle of small amounts is so much easier to collect than one heavy lump, why let it ever stop? Why hand the thing over for good and close the relationship when you could simply keep charging month after month with no last bill in sight? Spreading one price across time was the first thing they learned. The next step is part 2, where ownership begins to disappear, the sale becomes a subscription, and paying no longer needs an ending.